Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into Dr. Bruce Lipton's work on manifestation and epigenetics.
Sounds fascinating.
I'm really curious to get your take on this, especially the whole good vibes attract good vibes thing.
Yeah.
It sounds a little,
A little out there.
yeah, a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
Like, is there any actual science to back that up, or is it just.
Well, it's not as mystical as it sounds. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
on an atomic level, everything is energy. It's all vibrating at different frequencies. Everything,
No.
even our thoughts, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the idea that attracts, it's not just some, new age saying. We actually see it in physics all the time. Like with sound waves, for example.
Interesting.
Frequencies that resonate with each other, they amplify each other, right?
Okay.
So if we apply that same principle to our own energy, well, it makes you wonder what kind of energy we're putting out there.
Yeah, it really does. Like, if I'm constantly putting out negative energy, am I just attracting more negative experiences?
It's definitely something to think about.
One thing that really stood out to me in Dr. Lipton's work was his point about limiting beliefs.
Uh-huh.
He gives that example of testing audiences on the belief, I love myself.
Right.
And he finds a surprising number of people who, test negative for that belief.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It makes you think, if we're struggling with something as fundamental as self-love, what other kind of, hidden beliefs are we carrying around?
Totally. And those beliefs, they can really hold us back, especially if we're not even aware of them.
So where do these limiting beliefs even come from?
Well, a lot of it comes from our childhood.
Okay.
The messages we pick up from our parents, from our teachers, from society in general. Think about it. How many times have you heard things like, money doesn't grow on trees?
Oh, yeah.
Or life is hard, you got to work for everything you get.
Yeah, constantly.
Right. Those messages, especially when we hear them over and over again as kids, they get ingrained in our subconscious.
So it's almost like they become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Lipton argues that if you believe deep down that you're unworthy or incapable, well, you're more likely to attract experiences that confirm that belief.
So we're basically talking about the subconscious mind acting like a filter that shapes our perceptions and even our actions.
Totally.
But if our subconscious is running the show most of the time, how do we actually manifest anything different?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It all starts with awareness.
Okay.
Becoming aware of those subconscious beliefs is the first step. It's like shining a light on those hidden programs so we can start to understand how they're affecting us.
Okay, I'm all for awareness, but how do we actually reprogram those beliefs?
Well, Lipton talks a lot about things like self-hypnosis and repetition.
Okay.
Using affirmations, guided meditations, things like that.
So self-hypnosis, that sounds a little,
Intimidating.
Yeah, a little intimidating. Is this something anyone can do?
Absolutely. It's not about swinging pendulums or anything like that.
Okay.
It's more about tapping into a specific brainwave state. Theta brainwave state, to be precise.
Okay.
It's a state we naturally enter as we fall asleep. Think of it like a back door to your subconscious mind.
Interesting.
So as you're drifting off, your subconscious is more receptive to suggestions, right?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect time to start planting those new seeds.
So listening to positive affirmations as you fall asleep,
Exactly.
is that really all it takes?
It's not magic. It's about consistency.
Yeah.
Just like anything else worth learning, it takes time and repetition.
Okay, so we can change our beliefs, but what about our genes? If we're predisposed to certain things, doesn't that limit our ability to manifest?
That's where epigenetics comes in.
Okay.
Epi means above, so epigenetics is like a control panel that sits above your genes. It's the study of how our environment, and even more importantly, our perception of our environment,
can influence how our genes express themselves.
So we're not just puppets of our DNA.
Not all. We have way more control than we think.
So you're saying our genes are like a blueprint.
Yeah.
But our experiences and perceptions are like the architect, shaping how that blueprint plays out.
Precisely. You got it.
But is it really possible to, switch genes on or off based on our environment and perceptions?
Well, think about cancer, for example. Lipton points out that cancer involves changes in multiple genes.
Okay.
So if cancer was purely genetic, wouldn't everyone with a predisposition develop it?
Right.
But we know that's not the case. And then you have the phenomenon of spontaneous remission.
Yeah, where people with cancer just completely heal.
Exactly. And while there's no single explanation for it, many researchers believe that a profound shift in mindset can play a huge role.
That's incredible. So the mind really can have that much power over the body.
It's pretty amazing, right?
But how does this all tie back to epigenetics? To illustrate the power of epigenetics, Dr. Lipton conducted this fascinating experiment with genetically identical stem cells.
Okay.
He put them in 3 different environments, and guess what?
What?
The cells in each environment differentiated into totally different types of cells.
Wow. So even though they had the same DNA,
Yeah,
their environment determined their fate.
exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. And here's the takeaway for you. This means that even though you might have a genetic predisposition to something, your environment and your perception of that environment can play a huge role in whether that predisposition becomes a reality.
So wait, are you saying that even if I'm in a good environment,
Yeah.
my perception of that environment could still send negative signals to my cells?
It's a lot of responsibility, right?
And that's a lot to process.
Our perception acts like a lens.
Okay.
It's how our cells experience the world. So even if we're in a positive environment, if our perception is negative, our cells will respond accordingly. And you know what plays a big role in our perception? Stress.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Dr. Lipton emphasizes the negative effects of stress hormones, cortisol in particular.
Okay. I mean, we all know stress is bad for us,
Right.
but what's actually happening on a physical level when we're stressed out? Like, what's cortisol doing to my body?
Cortisol is our primary stress hormone, and it's designed to help us in short bursts. Imagine our ancestors running from a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
Cortisol kicks in.
Okay.
It redirects blood flow away from organs and towards our limbs, getting us ready to fight or flee, right?
Right.
The problem is, in today's world, we're constantly facing stressors. Deadlines, traffic, social media, you name it.
It never ends.
Right. So our cortisol levels are often chronically elevated. And this chronic stress response,
Yeah.
it can wreak havoc on our bodies.
So it's like our body's stuck in that fight or flight mode,
Exactly.
even when there's no real danger present.
Right.
That makes sense. But what are the specific effects of like this constant stress response? I'm curious how it all ties back to this idea of manifestation.
Well, one of the things cortisol does is suppress the immune system.
Oh, wow.
Makes sense if you think about it. When you're facing a tiger,
Yeah.
fighting off a cold isn't exactly a top priority.
Right, right.
But when your immune system is constantly suppressed, you become more susceptible to infections, diseases, you name it.
So basically, chronic stress makes it harder for our bodies to heal.
Exactly. And that's not all. Cortisol also hinders growth and repair processes.
Oh, no.
So if you think of your body as a construction site, when you're stressed, cortisol is like the foreman yelling, "Stop everything, emergency."
Oh, man.
All resources get diverted to dealing with that perceived threat. So things like digestion, tissue repair, cell regeneration, they all get put on hold.
This is making me rethink my whole relationship with stress.
It's a game changer, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's wild to think about how powerful these effects are.
And the thing is, these physiological effects, they're directly influenced by our perceptions and beliefs. If we're constantly perceiving threats, even small ones, our body reacts as if there's a tiger on our tail.
Wow. It all comes back to perception.
It really does.
This is like blowing my mind. It makes me realize how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Our thoughts, our beliefs, our environment, our genes.
It's all connected.
It's a lot to take in, but it's also really empowering.
It is. And speaking of the power of the mind over the body, there's also the fascinating phenomenon of spontaneous remission.
That's what I was just thinking about. It's like if people can heal themselves from serious illnesses,
Right.
what else is possible?
Exactly. And those cases of spontaneous remission, they offer incredible insight into the mind-body connection. We'll delve into those stories in part 2 of our Deep Dive.
That stem cell experiment from the last part, I'm still thinking about it.
That's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like if those cells can change their entire destiny based on their environment,
Yeah.
what signals are our own cells picking up on, based on our thoughts and feelings?
It's almost like our bodies are eavesdropping on our every thought and emotion,
Wow, that's kind of a freaky thought.
Yeah, but it's also incredibly empowering when you think about it. It means we have more influence over our health and well-being than we realize.
Okay, I like that spin on it. So if our internal environment is that important, it seems like cultivating a more positive mental and emotional state would be key.
Exactly. And there are so many tools and practices that can help with that.
Okay, like what?
Mindfulness, meditation, gratitude practices, these are all becoming more and more mainstream, and for good reason. They help us become more aware of our thoughts and feelings, reduce stress, and create a more positive internal environment for ourselves to thrive.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed those practices getting more popular.
It's a good sign. It shows that people are starting to recognize the importance of the mind-body connection.
For sure. And it seems like that connection is really at the heart of this whole manifestation thing.
Absolutely. If we want to create a healthy, fulfilling life, we need to cultivate beliefs and emotions that support that vision.
That makes me think about what Dr. Lipton was saying about self-hypnosis and repetition.
Right.
Is it just about like repeating affirmations over and over, or is there more to it than that? Like, do we need to really engage our imagination and emotions too?
It's definitely more than just, mindlessly repeating words. It's about really feeling into those affirmations, visualizing yourself already living that reality, experiencing those positive emotions as if it's already happening.
So creating a mental movie, basically.
Exactly. Engaging all your senses, making it as real as possible in your mind's eye.
Because, Lipton said something like 95% of our behavior is driven by subconscious programming.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how so much of that programming comes from those early childhood experiences and societal conditioning.
Totally. Those early experiences really shape our beliefs about ourselves and the world.
And they can be tough to shake off.
They can, but it's not impossible.
So self-hypnosis and repetition can help, but are there other approaches that can help us rewrite those subconscious programs?
Absolutely. There are a lot of different modalities out there that can be really effective for accessing and reprogramming the subconscious mind.
Like what?
Things like energy healing, breath work, NLP, even certain types of therapy that focus on the subconscious.
Wow, so many options. It makes me want to sign up for a retreat and just try everything.
The important thing is to find what resonates with you, what feels right for your unique needs and preferences.
It's about finding the right tools for your own personal toolkit, basically.
Exactly. And remember, reprogramming the subconscious takes time, patience, and consistency. It's not a quick fix.
So self-compassion is key here too.
Absolutely. We have to be kind to ourselves and celebrate those small wins along the way.
Totally. We're all works in progress, right?
Exactly. As we become more aware of our thoughts and feelings and beliefs, we can start making choices that align with our highest potential.
We were talking earlier about those cases of spontaneous remission. What are some common threads you see in those stories?
One thing that stands out is that many individuals who experience spontaneous remission report making significant lifestyle changes. They often adopt healthier habits, eating a nutrient-rich diet, exercising regularly, spending time in nature, prioritizing sleep.
Those are all things we know are good for us, but it's fascinating to think they might be playing a role in these remarkable healings.
Right. It's like all these different pieces working together. And in terms of mindset shifts,
Yeah, what about those?
many describe experiencing a deep sense of peace and acceptance, letting go of fear and worry, and cultivating a profound sense of gratitude for their lives. They often talk about finding a renewed sense of purpose and feeling a deeper connection to something greater than themselves.
Wow. It's like they've tapped into a wellspring of inner strength.
Exactly. It really highlights the incredible power of the human spirit.
It's so inspiring to hear about these cases.
It is, but it's important to remember that we're not suggesting mindset alone is responsible for these healings. It's likely a complex interplay of factors.
Right, of course. But it definitely emphasizes the potential of the mind-body connection.
Absolutely. And it reminds us to explore all available options when it comes to our well-being.
I love that. This whole deep dive is really opening my eyes to how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Our thoughts, beliefs, environment, genes. It's a lot to process, but it's also really empowering.
That's the beauty of it. It's a paradigm shift. Manifestation and epigenetics are like two sides of the same coin, both pointing to our incredible power to shape our reality. We're not just passive bystanders, we're active creators of our lives.
It's not about denying challenges, but recognizing we have the inner resources to navigate them.
Exactly. We can choose our response, shift our perspective, and tap into that inner strength.
What makes this so fascinating is that it's not just about personal transformation.
Oh, absolutely. It ripples outwards. As we heal our own limiting beliefs, we naturally inspire others to do the same.
Like we each have the power to create a ripple effect.
Exactly. And together, those ripples can create a powerful wave of positive change.
So how do we start putting all of this knowledge into action?
That's a great question. And we'll dive into some practical steps and techniques in part 3 of our deep dive.
So we've talked about like the power of our subconscious and how early experiences can shape our beliefs.
Right.
But are there other, less obvious ways we're being programmed without even realizing it?
That's a good question. I think it's important to be mindful of how much our environment is influencing us,
Okay.
even in subtle ways. Think about the media we consume, the advertising we see, the conversations we have.
Right.
All those things can subtly shape our beliefs about, what's possible for us, what we deserve.
So it's not just our personal experiences, but it's also like these broader cultural narratives that we're soaking up.
Exactly. It's like we're swimming in a sea of information, and a lot of it seeps into our subconscious without us even realizing it.
Wow, that's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, it can be. That's why it's so important to become aware of those influences and start questioning them.
Okay, so how do we even begin to identify those hidden beliefs that might be holding us back?
One powerful technique is to pay attention to your self-talk. What are the recurring thoughts that run through your mind?
Okay.
Are they mostly positive, or are you constantly putting yourself down?
Ooh, good point. I think we're all guilty of negative self-talk sometimes.
We are. It's human nature.
Yeah.
But the more aware we become of it, the more we can start to shift those patterns.
What are some other ways to uncover those limiting beliefs?
Pay attention to your emotions. They can offer valuable clues about what's going on beneath the surface. For example, if you're feeling anxious in certain situations, it might be a sign that you have a belief in scarcity or a lack of control.
Interesting. So it's like our emotions are trying to tell us something.
Exactly. They're like messengers.
So paying attention to our emotions and then trying to decipher what they might be revealing about our beliefs.
Exactly. And once you start to identify those limiting beliefs, you can begin to consciously reprogram your subconscious mind.
And Dr. Lipton talks about repetition and visualization. Can you give us some tangible examples of how we can put those into practice?
Absolutely. Let's say you're struggling with a belief that you're not worthy of success.
Okay.
You could create an affirmation like, I am deserving of abundance and success in all areas of my life.
Okay.
Repeat this affirmation several times a day, both aloud and silently.
Okay.
And as you're repeating it, visualize yourself achieving your goals. Feel the emotions associated with that success.
It's like creating a mental movie of the reality we want to experience.
Precisely.
Engaging all of our senses.
And the more you embody those feelings, the more powerful the impact on your subconscious mind.
Are there any tips or tricks to make these practices more effective?
Consistency is key. Think of it like building a muscle. You wouldn't expect to see results after one workout.
Right.
Make those practices a regular part of your routine, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
It's like Dr. Lipton's analogy about learning the alphabet.
Exactly. It takes time and repetition to rewire those neural pathways.
So what are some signs that we're moving in the right direction? How do we know if it's working?
You might notice your self-talk becoming more positive.
Okay.
You might find yourself feeling less reactive to challenges, more capable of handling difficult situations. And you might even start attracting new opportunities that align with your goals.
Those are definitely encouraging signs. It's really exciting to think about the possibility for transformation,
It is. But remember, it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Right.
Be patient with yourself and celebrate those little victories along the way.
Self-compassion is so important.
It is. It's essential.
We have to be as kind and understanding with ourselves as we would be with, a close friend.
Absolutely. And that self-compassion creates a more supportive inner environment for growth and healing.
This deep dive has been truly mind-blowing. I feel like I have so much to think about and so much to put into practice.
It's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually. It's about embodying them, experiencing the shift within ourselves.
Yeah. For example.
And it's not just about our own personal transformation either. It's about recognizing that as we heal ourselves, we also contribute to healing the world around us.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. As we step into a more empowered way of being, we inspire others to do the same.
It's amazing to think about the collective impact we can have when we all start to tap into our potential.
It is. And that's what makes this work so meaningful. It's about contributing to a more conscious, compassionate, and interconnected world.
Well said. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today. It's been an incredible journey.
It's been my pleasure. And to you, our listener, remember, you're not simply a product of your genes or your circumstances. You are a powerful being with the ability to shape your destiny. Embrace this power, cultivate your inner garden, and watch your life blossom in ways you never thought possible.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into manifestation and epigenetics. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and gained some valuable insights to empower you on your own path of transformation. Keep exploring, keep growing, and remember, the possibilities are infinite.